Would you believe it? A world war that claimed millions of lives and tore Europe apart actually made enemy soldiers lay down their guns, step out of their trenches, and work together, all for one warhorse. This was no fairy tale written to glorify peace. It was an iconic scene from Steven Spielberg's Warhorse, a quiet, profound moment that left countless viewers stunned and teary-eyed decades after the film's release. Today, we followed a young horse named Joey across bursting artillery fire and jagged battle lines between Britain and France. We witnessed an unbreakable bond forged through years of war, loss, and survival, and uncovered the kindness and gentle humanity that the thick smoke of battle could never fully bury. Most classic war films focused tightly on brutal frontline combat. They used roaring artillery, bloody skirmishes, and heavy casualties to shock audiences and drive home the horror of armed conflict. Warhorse, however, chose a uniquely tender yet immensely powerful perspective. It did not fix its camera only on charging, fighting soldiers. Instead, its central protagonist was a horse, an innocent creature dragged into mankind's senseless fight. From the quiet, sun-dappled countryside of England to the scarred, cratered wastelands of World War I France, Joey passed through the hands of British troops, German soldiers, and grieving French civilians. He watched heartfelt farewells, witnessed countless cruel deaths, endured freezing nights and crippling exhaustion, and time and again he found small, fragile glimmers of humanity in the most hopeless situations. War burned villages to ash, split families apart, bred endless hatred between nations, and stole millions of innocent lives, yet pure trust and longing between living beings could never be fully crushed by cannon fire. The story began in 1914 at a busy livestock market in rural Devon, England. The square buzzed with shouting farmers haggling over prices, browsing for sturdy plow horses and cattle to prepare for the full year's farm labor. A farmer named Ted only planned to buy a strong, reliable workhorse for his rocky fields, but he acted on sudden impulse during the bidding. Against his patient wife's sensible wishes, he spent every penny his family had saved through years of back-breaking farm work and paid 30 guineas for a beautiful young foal with rich brown and white markings. The watching villagers could not understand his reckless choice. The foal was built for sprinting freely across open moors, not pulling heavy plows across rough, stone-choked land. For a farm already drowning in debt and one bad harvest away from ruin, buying this horse made a hard situation far worse. A spiteful, greedy local landlord even kept raising his bid, smugly waiting for Ted to run out of money and embarrass himself publicly in front of the whole town. Still, Ted held firm and brought the foal home, determined to give this spirited young horse a chance. Ted's teenage son Albert fell completely in love with the foal the second he saw him, and he named the horse Joey. Albert spent nearly every free moment with Joey after that. He ran across wide green fields with him at dawn, brushed and fed him carefully at dusk, and spoke softly to calm his skittish, sensitive spirit. The boy and the horse grew an unshakable spiritual bond that no one else could ever come between. Albert created a special whistle signal just for Joey, a quiet secret shared only by the two of them. He also ignored doubt and mockery from the whole village and trained the free-spirited foal to plow rocky, unyielding land day after day, even when every neighbor said the task was impossible. When Joey tightened his grip on the leather reins and dragged the heavy iron plow, slowly turning over the stubborn, compacted earth, the watching villagers fell silent before breaking into amazed cheers. Joey proved his worth and temporarily saved the struggling family farm from eviction. At that peaceful moment, Albert thought he would spend countless quiet years with Joey in these rolling fields. But a terrible storm of fate was gathering hundreds of miles away, a global conflict that would soon shatter every ordinary life across Europe. That peaceful rural life did not last. A violent wind-lashed storm swept over the farm overnight and destroyed the entire year's harvest. Without crops to sell, the family could not pay their mounting debts, and they faced the real risk of losing the land their family had owned for generations. With a heavy, aching heart, Ted made a painful choice. He sold Joey to British cavalry soldiers heading for the Western Front, hoping the money would save his family's home and keep them from poverty. At their heartbreaking goodbye, Albert wrapped his arms tight around Joey's neck, pressing his cheek into the horse's shaggy coat, his eyes burning with fresh tears. He made a solemn promise. No matter how far apart they were, no matter how long the war dragged on, no matter how many battlefields stood between them, he would grow old enough to enlist, cross the battle lines, and find his horse. Albert was still too young to meet the army's enlistment rules. Powerless to change what was happening, he stood at the end of the dirt road and watched tearfully as his beloved Joey left with Captain Nichols, bound for the unknown horrors of France. The gentle Captain Nichols cared deeply for Joey from the very first day. He understood how much this horse meant to the young boy back in England, and he refused to treat Joey as nothing more than disposable military equipment. Between brutal battles, in rare moments of quiet safety, Nichols sketched Joey's portrait in careful detail, capturing every marking on the horse's coat. He mailed the precious drawing back to Devon, and that small piece of paper became Albert's anchor, the thing that kept him hopeful through all the lonely, uncertain years ahead. But war offered no mercy to man or beast. Soon after, a brutal cavalry charge began. British riders advanced boldly toward German lines, only to crash straight into a deadly wall of machine gun fire. Cold bullets cut down dozens of cavalrymen in seconds, and Captain Nichols was killed in the fighting. When the thick smoke cleared, the once proud cavalry unit was gone, and the surviving Joey became spoils of war for German troops. While he stayed in the German camp, Joey met a large, powerful black horse named Topthorn. The two horses shared the same cruel fate, torn away from everything they knew, and they became each other's only comfort in a cold, frightening world. A young German soldier named Gunther cared for them, worn thin and broken by the endless violence of war. Gunther only wanted to keep his little brother safe and far from the killing fields. To save the boy's life, Gunther snuck away from the camp with his brother Joey and Topthorn. They hid inside a quiet countryside windmill, but patrolling German soldiers tracked them down. The brothers were labeled deserters and executed. The soldiers hurried away and left the two horses trapped beside the empty windmill. Not long afterward, a sickly young French girl named Emily found Joey and Topthorn hiding there. Emily lived alone with her elderly grandfather. Her parents had died fighting in the war years before. The lonely, isolated girl treated the horses as her closest, dearest friends. She fed them, groomed them, and sheltered them secretly in her barn to hide them from roving German search parties. Her grandfather pitied his lonely granddaughter deeply. For Emily's birthday, he pulled out a well-preserved saddle he had saved for years and let her ride Joey freely across the open, sunlit fields. That fragile piece did not hold. German troops returned to seize horses for hauling heavy artillery, and Joey and Topthorn were forced back into the brutal chaos of war. Emily could only watch and cry as her beloved horses were taken away from her. A grueling journey across the front followed. The two horses pulled tons of heavy artillery through muddy, cratered battlefield ground every single day. Artillery boomed constantly around them, and exhaustion, cuts, and painful injury wore their bodies down week after week. Even the tough, resilient Topthorn could not bear the endless strain. He used up all his strength and collapsed onto the cold, wet mud, never to stand again. After watching his best friend die before his eyes, terrified Joey panicked and ran wildly into the no-man's land between enemy trenches, a deadly zone no soldier dared to enter. Tangled layers of sharp barbed wire trapped him tightly, and he could not move an inch. This corpse-strewn, crater-filled no-man's land was forbidden ground for both armies. Every careless step meant certain death. When British soldiers spotted the trapped, dying Joey out in the open, one brave soldier raised a white flag, stepped cautiously out of the trench, and called across to the German lines. He asked for a temporary truce, so both sides could work together to rescue the wounded horse. One of cinema's most touching scenes unfolded right then. Soldiers who had fought and hated each other for years set down their weapons, walked together into the dangerous wasteland, and carefully cut the sharp wire wrapped around Joey's body. For a precious moment, nationality, military sides, and wartime hatred all vanished. The soldiers felt only natural compassion for a fragile living thing in agony. The smoke faded, and the cold battlefield briefly filled with simple human warmth. Once the rescue finished, the two soldiers flipped a coin to decide who would take Joey. The British soldier won. As they parted ways, the strangers waved to one another and whispered quietly that they were never meant to be enemies. Joey was taken to a British field hospital for urgent treatment. His severe infected wounds made the army vet believe recovery was impossible. The vet planned to shoot him to end his suffering. At that same time, Albert, now old enough to enlist and fight overseas, was stationed at that very camp. A poison gas attack had badly burned his eyes, and thick white bandages covered his sight completely. Some invisible thread of fate guided the blind Albert. He sensed that Joey, the horse he had missed for years, was somewhere nearby in the camp. He took a deep breath and blew the special whistle he and Joey had shared long ago back in Devon. The familiar sound cut through the loud chaos of the military camp. Weak and exhausted, Joey lifted his heavy head, pricked his ears forward, and neighed loudly toward the voice he remembered perfectly. The commanding officer still refused to believe this was a special horse, and insisted on carrying out the vet's order. In that critical, heart-stopping moment, Albert stepped forward and described every unique marking and scar on Joey's coat. A soldier grabbed a rough rag and wiped away the thick mud and dried blood from the horse's body. Every mark matched exactly what Albert had described. Everyone standing there finally understood. This was the horse the boy had searched for across years of brutal war. A miracle happened. Joey survived his terrible injuries, and Albert's eyes slowly healed after careful medical treatment. Soon, the bells of armistice rang across every battlefield. World War I had finally ended. Under strict army rules, surviving warhorses would be auctioned off to civilian buyers. Albert spent every bit of his hard-earned military savings, yet he could not compete with other wealthy bidders. He watched helplessly as Joey was about to be sold to someone else. At the auction, an elderly Frenchman kept raising his bid and bought Joey. He was Amélie's grandfather. The little girl who had cared for Joey in her quiet windmill home had passed away from illness not long before. The old man traveled a very long way to the auction just to honor his granddaughter's last precious memory. At first, he refused to let Joey go. But when Albert showed him Captain Nichols' old sketch and told the full story of the promise he had made years before, the grandfather understood. Joey's true home was not a quiet country estate. It belonged to the boy who had raised and loved him from the very beginning. The film's final shot showed the golden sunset spilling over the wide Devon countryside. Albert led Joey, scarred but safe, back to the farm he had left years before. His parents waited at the wooden door of their home, welcoming home their son who had survived the horrors of war, and the miraculous horse that had crossed an entire battlefield to return to him. The boy and the horse had finally come back to where their story first began. Warhorse intentionally avoided graphic, gory battle shots. Instead, it used Joey's long, wandering journey to show how senseless, cruel, and tragic war truly was. Artillery could split land and borders, breed bitter hatred, and steal countless lives, yet it could never break the sincere bond between living creatures. Albert and Joey's promise, which lasted through years of separation and war, and the temporary truce between enemy soldiers to save a horse, both taught the same timeless lesson. Deep kindness and empathy inside humanity held the power to cut through smoke and darkness. War existed to create division and pain, but every living being deserved gentle care. When the smoke cleared, hatred never lasted. Trust, loyal companionship, and endless hope were the things that remained long after the guns fell silent.